Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's T. I've been reading through the comments and I saw a few of you saying that the last few episodes were so intense you needed a breather. I totally get it. The internet can be a dark place sometimes. So, for this fourth video, I wanted to switch things up and look at the side of Reddit that actually makes you feel good. While we get into these, I'm just doing some random tasks in our world, decorating the guest room, maybe doing some deep tunnel mining for iron and gold, and if we're lucky, we might stumble onto some diamonds. Let's get into something a bit more heartwarming. Our first story today is titled, "My grumpy neighbor has been secretly maintaining my late father's garden for 3 years." The poster, let's call him Alex, moved back into his childhood home after his father passed away. His father was a master gardener, but Alex didn't have a green thumb at all. He felt guilty watching the beautiful rose bushes and hydrangeas start to wither, but he just didn't have the energy to deal with it. While grieving, he also had a neighbor, Mr. Henderson, who was a retired veteran and notoriously grumpy, the kind of guy who would huff if your car was parked 2 inches over the line. The thing that really gets me about this story is how Alex eventually discovered the truth. He had to leave for work at 4 a.m. one morning because of a plumbing emergency at his office. As he walked to his car, he saw a flashlight moving in his backyard. He thought it was a burglar and grabbed a baseball bat, but when he got closer, he saw Mr. Henderson on his hands and knees, carefully pruning the roses and laying down fresh mulch. He wasn't just doing it that day, he had a whole system. He had been coming over in the pre-dawn hours for 3 years to keep the garden alive. When you really look at the effort behind this, it's incredible. Mr. Henderson wasn't doing this for a thank you or for social media clout. He was doing it because he had been best friends with Alex's father for 40 years and they had a silent pact to look after each other's property. He knew that if he asked Alex for permission, Alex might feel obligated to pay him or feel embarrassed about the state of the yard. By doing it at 4 a.m., he protected Alex's dignity while honoring his friend's legacy. When Alex finally confronted him, Mr. Henderson just grumbled and said, "Your dad would kill me if I let his peace roses die, kid. Now go to work." But Alex noticed that Mr. Henderson's own garden was starting to look a bit overgrown because he was spending all his energy on Alex's yard. It shows that even the people we think are the most difficult often have the biggest hearts. They just don't know how to express it in words, so they express it in labor. The fallout of this discovery was actually a beautiful friendship. Alex started waking up early to help him. He realized that Mr. Henderson was lonely after his wife passed, and the garden was his way of staying connected to the world. They started a neighborhood garden club where they taught younger kids how to grow their own vegetables. It turned a cold, quiet street into a community. It's a reminder that we often judge people by their grumpy exterior without ever seeing the 4 a.m. versions of them. Alex ended up finding a box of his father's old gardening journals and gave them to Mr. Henderson. He said the old man actually cried, the first time Alex had ever seen him show emotion. They now spend every Saturday morning together, and Alex's garden is the best in the neighborhood. It taught Alex that grief doesn't have to be a solo journey. Sometimes your neighbors are just waiting for a way to help you carry the load. If you think about the psychology here, it's a lesson in quiet service. We live in a world where everyone wants a trophy for every good deed, but there is something so much more powerful about a kindness that stays in the dark. Mr. Henderson didn't want to be a hero, he just wanted to be a friend. It's the kind of story that makes you want to go check on your own neighbors and see if there's a way you can make their life a little easier without making a big deal out of it. The ending for Alex was life changing. He realized that his father hadn't just left him a house, he had left him a community. By keeping that garden alive, Mr. Henderson kept the memory of Alex's father alive too. Every time a rose blooms, it's like a message from the past. It's the ultimate wholesome outcome because it didn't involve money or fame. It just involved a pair of pruning shears and a lot of respect. I think we all need a Mr. Henderson in our lives. Or better yet, we should try to be the Mr. Henderson for someone else. You never know who is struggling in silence and just needs someone to pull a few weeds for them. Story number 2 is about an anonymous secret Santa in a small town who saved a family's Christmas and changed a man's life forever. The poster, a guy named David, lost his job at a factory right before the holidays. He had 3 young kids and was terrified that they would wake up to an empty living room on Christmas morning. He was so desperate that he went to a local pawn shop to sell his wedding ring just to buy some basic groceries and a few small toys. When he got to the pawn shop, the owner, a man who had a reputation for being a bit of a shark, took the ring, looked at it, and then looked at David's face. Instead of offering him the usual lowball price, the owner handed the ring back and said, "I don't buy wedding rings from men who are clearly in a spot of trouble. Come back tomorrow." David was devastated, thinking he had failed his family. But when he walked out to his car, there was an envelope tucked under his windshield wiper with $500 in cash and a note that said, "Pay it forward when you can." The way this story develops is what makes it so special. David used that money to get the kids their Christmas, but he also used it to fix his car so he could get to a job interview in the next town over. He got the job. A year later, David went back to the pawn shop to try and find the man who left the envelope. He wanted to thank him and return the money. But when he talked to the owner revealed that it wasn't him. It was a regular customer who saw David walking in and knew the look on his face because he had been there himself 10 years ago. When you look at the ripple effect of one act of kindness, it's mind-blowing. That anonymous customer didn't just buy toys, he bought David the dignity of providing for his family. He gave him the breathing room to actually nail an interview instead of being paralyzed by stress. This is what real charity looks like. It's not about the dollar amount, it's about the timing and the empathy behind it. David eventually found out who the man was, an old guy named Ben, who worked at the post office. Ben had a tradition of sitting outside the pawn shop during the holidays specifically to find people who looked like they were at their breaking point. He called it his investment in humanity. He didn't want the money back. He told David that the only way to pay him back was to find someone else in that pawn shop parking lot next year. This story really highlights the concept of unseen support. There are people moving through our lives every day who are looking for ways to lift us up without us even knowing. David and Ben ended up becoming close friends, and every year now they go to that parking lot together with a few envelopes. They have started a small foundation in their town that helps families with emergency car repairs so they don't lose their jobs. If you think about the after for David, it's a complete 180. He went from being a man who was ready to sell his most prized possession to a man who is now a pillar of his community. And it all started because one stranger decided to pay attention instead of looking away. It's a reminder that being busy isn't an excuse to miss the opportunities to be kind. Sometimes 5 minutes and an envelope can save a life. I love the ending to this one because it's a full circle moment. David's kids are grown now and they participate in the parking lot project every year. It taught them that the world isn't just a place of competition, but a place of cooperation. It changed the entire trajectory of their family's values. Final thought on this: you never know what someone is going through when they walk into a pawn shop or a food bank. A little bit of grace goes a lot further than a little bit of judgment. Story number three is a long term, wholesome story about a stray cat that essentially hired a human to save an entire neighborhood. The poster, Maria, lived in an apartment complex that was plagued by a massive rat problem. The management wouldn't do anything about it. One day, a scrawny, one eared stray cat showed up at her door. He didn't want food, he just wanted to sit on her porch. She named him Sarge. Sarge wasn't your typical cuddly cat, he was a warrior, but Maria noticed that Sarge started bringing gifts to the elderly residents of the complex. He would leave a toy he found, or sometimes he would just sit outside the door of a resident who was sick until they felt better. He became the unofficial security guard of the building. But the wholesome part is how the residents, many of whom were lonely or didn't talk to each other, started coming together to take care of Sarge. The way this cat unified a group of strangers is actually amazing. They started a Sarge fund to pay for his vet bills. They created a rotating schedule for who would feed him and who would let him in when it was raining. People who hadn't spoken to their neighbors in 5 years were suddenly meeting in the hallway to discuss what kind of grain-free food Sarge liked. He became the common ground that everyone needed. When you think about the social architecture of an apartment building, it's usually very isolated. But Sarge broke down those walls. He didn't care about politics or how much rent people paid. He just wanted a chin scratch. He ended up clearing out the rat problem within 6 months. But the human problem he solved was even bigger. He cured the loneliness of a dozen people just by existing. The climax of the story happened when the apartment management tried to ban unauthorized pets and wanted to send Sarge to a high kill shelter. The entire building, every single tenant, showed up at the management office with a petition. They told the manager that if the cat went, they all went. They even argued that Sarge was a service animal for the entire community. The management backed down, and Sarge was officially named the resident pest control officer. The outcome for Sarge was a life of luxury. He has 5 different beds in 5 different apartments. He's healthy, fat, and still has that one grumpy ear. But the outcome for the humans was better. Maria said that because of that cat, they now have monthly potluck dinners and look out for each other. If an elderly neighbor doesn't come out for their Sarge shift, someone goes and knocks on their door to make sure they're okay. It's a beautiful look at how animals can be the bridge between us. Sarge didn't have to do anything other than be a cat, but his presence forced people to interact and realize they had things in common. It's a biological, wholesome story. Nature fixing what society broke. Sarge is the boss of that building, and everyone is happy to work for him. My take: sometimes the best person for the job isn't a person at all. Sarge did more for that community than any social worker or manager ever could. He gave them a reason to care about something outside of themselves. Final thoughts on Sarge: I think every apartment building needs a one eared stray. He's the heart of the home now. Our final story today is a gay generational wholesome moment about a grandfather who used Minecraft, funnily enough, to connect with his grandson who lived across the country. The poster is the grandson, Leo. He said he and his grandpa had nothing in common. Grandpa was a retired structural engineer who liked woodworking, and Leo was a gamer kid. They barely spoke during their yearly visits because the gap between them felt too wide. During the pandemic, Leo's grandpa asked if Leo could teach him how to play that block game. Leo thought it was a joke, but he set up a private server for them. For the first few weeks, it was a disaster. Grandpa couldn't figure out the controls and kept falling into pits. But then, the engineer in him took over. He started asking Leo about the physics of the redstone and how the building mechanics worked. The thing that makes this so deep is what they built together. They didn't just build a house, they spent 2 years building a one-to-one scale model of the town Grandpa grew up in that doesn't exist anymore because it was flooded by a dam project in the 60s. Grandpa used his old blueprints and photos, and Leo did the heavy lifting of the building. While they built, Grandpa told Leo stories about every single house, who lived there, who was the town prankster, and where he met Leo's grandmother. If you think about the communication bridge here, it's incredible. Minecraft became a time machine for them. It allowed a grandson to walk through his grandfather's memories in 3D. Leo said he learned more about his family history in those 2 years than he had in his entire life. The gamer and the engineer found a middle ground where they could both be experts. Grandpa even started watching YouTube tutorials on how to make automated farms. He became more pro than Leo. The ending of this story is a bit of a tearjerker. Grandpa passed away last year, but before he did, he made sure the server was backed up. Leo now has a permanent, walkable museum of his family's history. He can literally walk into his grandpa's childhood bedroom and see the world exactly as his grandpa remembered it. It is a digital legacy that is more valuable than any inheritance. It really shows that technology doesn't have to be something that separates generations. It can be the thing that brings them together. Leo's grandpa didn't care about the game. He cared about the person he was playing it with. He used Leo's language to tell his own story. It's a beautiful example of how love can adapt to any medium, even if that medium is 16-bit blocks. My take: this is why I love gaming. It's not just about the win or the score. It's about the memories you make while you're building something. Leo and his grandpa built a bridge that will last forever. It's the ultimate wholesome win. So, as I'm finishing up these gold and iron runs, I'm thinking about how much better it feels to focus on the good stuff sometimes. This world we're building here is a bit like that server. It's a place to hang out and share these moments. I'm really happy with how the house is looking now that the decorations are in. Anyway, I'm going to stop here for today. The Minecraft run was super productive. We got a decent amount of ore, and the guest room is officially comfy now. I really hope these stories gave you a bit of a boost today. Let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. Was it Sarge the cat or the 4 a.m. gardener? I'd love to hear if you have any Mr. Henderson stories of your own. Don't forget to hit the like button if this made you smile, and subscribe if you want to stay tuned for the next one. I've been T, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.